Hey team, how's it all going? I've just come in from Storm Doris. God knows who thinks of the names of these things, but it's battering Manchester at the moment. So it's pretty rainy outside, pretty miserable in the sanctuary of the office. So it's a little bit nicer in here to be able to talk to you today. So just had the children with me for best part of a week because it's half-term school holidays. And so I recently wrote an article on how we find the right balance when we've got children with us. Because ultimately, if we are setting up a business or we're working and we've got the children with us, then we need to adapt ourselves so that we can obviously do both things at the same time. And just remember, most of us are striving towards working for ourselves or getting a better work-life balance because our families are so important to us. Myself in the military, we used to always have this saying, which was the army comes first, family a close second. Clearly families probably didn't appreciate that much, but we all seem to be suckered into it. So everyone's racing ahead with their careers, very much to the detriment of the families. And ultimately, relationships suffer. You might not have that same bond with your children. And I'm quite sure that's the same in most industries where, work would always encourage you to put the extra mile in for them, often at the detriment to your relationship with your partner or relationships with your children. And we've all decided that we don't want that anymore, because I think ultimately balance is very important in everything that we do, and certainly that balance in terms of working, striving towards excellence in our career, but also having that great bond with our families. And so now moving forwards, especially with the increase in usage of the internet and social media, we can now start to follow our passions, create a business based upon them, and make it work better for ourselves. So if we keep that in mind when we're moving forwards, and the kids are with us because they're off school, then we need to remember that that's actually what we want. We want to spend more time with our families, and so this is what it's all about. So we just ultimately try and figure out the better way to work around that situation. So for myself, because I speak to people in Australia and in America and New Zealand, then I figure that, well, once the children are in bed in the UK, that's a perfect time for me to be speaking to people on the west coast of America, in California for example, or in Australia or New Zealand. So you can do a time zone analysis on the world clock, work out who's still awake, where you can best put that time to effect, and ultimately you do have those hours between say 9 p.m. and 12 midnight or 1 a.m. where you can do your work still. For myself, I discovered this quite strangely, that I'm actually able to think really well when I'm in a play centre. Now, a play centre, most of you will be aware, is this like large climbing frame, and there's just tons of kids running around being crazy, very noisy, and you'd think it would be the last place that you could actually put any thought into action. But I think for myself, because I have to shut out all the noise of the kids running around screaming, I become so focused that actually it's almost like a zen-like state, and or like meditation, where I can actually think really well. And I found this as I was setting up the Nomad website, that I was able to go to a play centre, and for that sort of hour and a half when I was there, I was able to be really productive. And so maybe I need to do all of my thinking in an absolutely crazed environment. Clearly that's not going to work for everyone, but you know what? If it means that you've got to go to the park, set the kids off playing, and then you can do a bit of scribbling down in your notebook if you don't have Wi-Fi access or it's too bright, then do that. Work around your family commitments, make it work for you, and do it right from the start, because otherwise you're just going to end up getting dragged into a situation that you were trying to avoid in the first place. So when you're working towards that life balance with your work and your family, just make sure that you're doing it correctly from the start, and then you won't come to any roadblocks. So whilst I've been off this week, we've been able to take the children on a cub camp, which is really exciting. The Scout movement's a big thing in the UK, and basically it's training children in connecting with nature, connecting with the outdoors, and it really sets them up for success in the future because it gets them aware of the opportunities out there in nature. It makes them feel comfortable in that environment just as much as they are in their lounge playing on the computer. And so we take them out and we teach them orienteering, we teach them a bit of bushcraft, we teach them shelter building, fire management, all of the sort of real skills that potentially have been lost, you know, over the last few years as people have been growing up. So that was great. And then we did a load of other stuff that was really fun, and I basically fitted in my work online around that, and it's worked for me. It can work for you as well. You've just got to be a bit more inventive with your time, but ultimately, like I said, you know, put the family either first or equal with your work commitments. And also this week I've had an opportunity to meet up with some great like-minded people. I'm starting to develop workshops and retreats for people in the Manchester area, and then we're going to spread them out after we've got some success in this initial area, and that's ultimately where we can put into practice all of the things that we're teaching online. So I've been able to connect with some great groups and individuals who are very like-minded. They've got that sort of spiritual focus, but they're still entrepreneurial in their outlook. And so I'd like to be able to promote them as we move through this series, so that you can see the great other people that are out there, you know, doing their thing but staying authentic and, you know, keeping it real ultimately. On that note, if there's any of you that out there that would like to, you know, partner up in some sense with us at Nomad, it would be great, you know, really great to hear from you, see what we've got to offer each other, because, for example, the key points that we discuss are health and fitness, spirituality, money and finance, love and relationships, and career purpose. And so whilst we have a real great knowledge of them all, which allows us to do this bespoke and holistic approach to self-improvement, there's still going to be areas where you as subject matter experts will have a greater awareness or a greater depth knowledge. And that's where we could really rely on you for that extra sort of support, so really dig into the weeds. For example, I've been chatting to some guys that are, you know, for their whole careers have been focused on nutrition and health, and so it's just a phenomenal amount of information that they've got, and it's great to be able to tap into that and link you guys to them as well. So if you come to me and say, oh hey, we'd really like to, you know, learn more about the spiritual aspects that you're looking at, then I'll refer you to one of my partners who is able to really work with that specific element with you. And so one of the great girls that I've met up with recently is a girl called Caroline Healy. She's from the local area of Stockport as well, and she's got a company called Romley Lightworkers. I'll put you a link on the bottom in a minute. But if you want to learn more about angel card readings, tarot readings, anything like that, then she's your go-to girl, and she'd really appreciate, you know, obviously getting in touch with her and seeing what you can do together. She's an individual who came up to me and asked whether we could work together to start developing some fundraising activities, and so the Mind, Body and Spirit event that I've talked to you about on previous videos is her brainchild essentially. She's really driving that one forwards, and she's actually got another fundraiser on for us tonight. So I'll put you a video on about that tomorrow, and that's going to be a psychic supper with herself. And so essentially people are going to come along to this pub in Stockport, and we're going to have a great meal. It's going to be really fun, and we're going to be able to talk to, you know, spirits or angels using Caroline as the conduit. And so she's going to give some great messages to people. She's going to give them some support, make them believe in spirituality more so, or just open their minds to the possibility that there is something else out there. As you've heard me talk about with the spirituality, I think it's absolutely vital to us when we're moving forward in our career enhancement and our life enhancement, because it gives us that base foundation of belief which we can fall back on when times are hard, which, as you're all aware, will ultimately occur to us, especially if we're setting up a business or we're making significant life changes to ourselves. And so, she's on board, and as I say, I'd like to give her a great shout out because it's just amazing the work that she's doing. And then the other guys as well, who I'll mention in turn as we sort of move into their different respective areas. It's a perfect opportunity. This community is not just about me delivering life lessons, it's about us all working together, seeing how we can really develop themes and opportunities and projects as one. And I do believe significantly that we can achieve far more as a team than we can do as individuals. It's just the doors that we can open up for each other there's so many of them, whereas if we try and do it alone, and this might be out of fear, it might be out of insecurity, it's just going to be a lot more difficult for us. So let's just create this collaborative environment. Nomad is all about collaboration, it's all about community, and it's all about self-improvement and fulfilling our true potential. So this is where we can come together and do that. So I think my final point, and somebody was talking to me online about this yesterday, was saying about how because they've got children, that's a reason why they can't quit their job and set up this dream job and dream business on their own. Now, I completely empathise and I hear you. I know exactly what you're saying. However, my opinion on this is that yes, there's a fear that we have commitments already. However, we can't be using those fears as an excuse not to do it, because if you speak to your children in 10 years' time and they say to you, why have you always been unhappy in your job? And you say, well, I was actually scared that I wouldn't be able to pay for you to have the best clothes or for you to be able to live in the biggest house. And they would have said to you back, well, I would have been so proud of you if you tried. And so that's the way that I see it. My children would be more proud of me for trying and not succeeded than for not trying at all. And you should take that on board, because ultimately you will live in regret if you do not follow your passion. Simply, your children will respect you far more for trying than for not trying at all. So kids are resilient. They can do without the extra designer clothes, or they can do without that extra trip to a restaurant if they know that you are doing something for their greater good. And the greater good will come from the fact that you are following your dream. That's going to make you far more content in your life, in your outlook, and you're going to be a nicer person to be around, because you're going to be happier, because every day you're going to be getting up following your dream. And so your children will be so proud of you just for having given it a try, and you're going to instill in them such a lesson that you've got to follow your dreams. You don't want your kids to just go and take the first job that comes along and do it even though they're unhappy for their whole life. You want them to be excellent, so why don't you want to teach them that lesson through your own actions? And that was my response to this individual online, and it's my sort of guidance to you guys as well, that don't use anything as an excuse not to do what you're supposed to do, because it's in you and you're meant to do it. So let's get it done. And then the final point is a great announcement that I've got. Because online I've been getting a lot of people asking me for help and guidance, I've decided that I'm going to set up a portal on the website, and it's going to allow you to be able to speak to me one-on-one. And we can do this through a method of one-on-one Skype calls, or we can do it on telephone calls, or we can do it on email, whichever one you prefer. It's kind of like coaching, but I don't describe myself as a coach. I would see myself more as an inspirational guide, and that's because I cover the whole holistic package rather than one individual area. And so you can come to me and we can discuss what's going on in your life, and we can get a plan of how you can make that more effective for yourself, and how you can strive forwards to achieve your full potential. And I'd like to do that with you. There's going to be an opportunity for you to speak to me directly, and we'll have the portal set up on the website soon. So as soon as that's up, I'll put the message out there to you, but please keep an eye on that. And if you want to get in touch with me in the meantime, you can get in touch with the social media page, Nomad Adventure Therapy, and come and speak to me. I would like to help you in any way that I can do. I've got a great wealth of experience to share with you, and I think that I've got enough emotional intelligence and empathy to really understand your issues and come up with a plan that's going to help you move towards your correct goal. So don't hesitate to get in touch. On that point, I'll leave it for now, and I'll be back in with you tomorrow once we've got some great feedback to give you on the psychic fundraiser night tonight. Thanks.